Destroy the enemy's battleships, which are rampant in the mountains of the moon.
So now that you've seen the games that I have for the system, I'm gonna tell you the end of the story of the Pioneer CLD-A100 Laseractive video game system. Yeah, it sold badly. According to the internet, only 10,000 units were ever sold, and most of them in Japan, which is actually not surprising. I mean, in 1993, when the system was released, it competed with the 3DO and the Philips CDI. And just for example, the 3DO was a pretty expensive video game system with a retail price of $699, but compared to the Laseractive, it was actually cheap, because in order to play any games on the CLD-A100, you would actually have to pay at least $1,570 US. And the only reason why people would actually pay that price was to play the Laseractive games, because if you bought everything separately that this system can do, and just for example we take the Sega pack, so you bought a different Laserdisc player, a Sega Genesis and a Sega CD, you would have to pay around $1,000 US or even less, depending on which Laserdisc player you bought. And yeah, also the Laseractive games were also not cheap. I mean, the games sold for about $120 each, and yeah, only 30 titles were ever released. There are 20 Mega LD games, or better say titles, for the Sega pack, and only 10 LD-ROM 2 games or titles for the NEC pack. So in the end, yeah, the system was a failure, and today it's a pretty rare collector's item, and I would actually only recommend it to collectors, especially since today everything that has to do with the Laseractive is also pretty expensive. But if somebody are actually interested in the system, here are some prices that you would have to expect on eBay. Now, the CLD-A100 without any control pack can go between 200 to 2000 US dollars, depending on its condition. Then the Sega packs will go for $150 to $450. The NEC packs go for between $200 and $600, and the PAC N10, which allows you to play the TurboGrafx 16 games, can even cost you more, since it's a pretty rare control pack. Then the karaoke pack goes for $100 to $300. Then I have no idea how much the price is for a computer interface pack, because I never saw one of those on eBay or any other auction sites. And yeah, the 3D goggles will cost you at least, I guess, $150 and up. And yeah, also another thing that I wanted to mention, sorry, I forgot about the Laseractive games. The Laseractive games go for between $70 to $350 US dollars, and some rare titles can even reach prices up to $1,000 or even more. And now another thing that I wanted to mention, or better let's say that you have to keep in mind if you're interested in buying a CLD-A100, is that shipping is also, or will also be expensive, since it's a pretty big and heavy unit. And also two other things that I wanted to mention. Number one, bad capacitors in the control packs, which happens a lot these days with old video game systems and handheld systems. I mean, those things are 20 years old or even older, and the capacitors start to break or leak out, and this will bring up some issues on the systems. And yeah, you could have some sound issues like I have with Space Berserk, where you almost don't hear any of the sound effects anymore. Or it could also happen that you have graphic issues, or in the worst case scenario, the control pack or the system doesn't work at all. And yeah, I actually have another issue with the Sega pack that happens sometimes, not every time, but sometimes. And the issue that I have is that sometimes I have to warm up the control pack. And what I mean is that if I just turn on the CLD-A100 without a control pack, it works perfectly. I can watch Laserdiscs, and yeah, or better say the one Laserdisc that I have, and I can also listen to audio CDs. But when I sometimes insert the Sega pack, it only turns on halfway, or better say it powers on halfway. All the lights are on, but I have a black screen, and I can't play any games, and I can't open any of the trays. But if I leave it powered on for about 5 minutes, then it warms up, kind of, and yeah, then all of a sudden it works perfectly. So, and yeah, when I have this issue after it's warmed up, let's call it like that, then it works every time. So even if I take out the Sega pack and put it right in, then it also works perfectly. But it only happens sometimes. Now, I found a site on the internet which shows you how to replace the laser on the CLD-A100, and it also shows you which capacitors you need to replace those in the Sega pack. But it's actually it will take you some time to replace those capacitors, since almost every control pack has about 40 capacitors inside, so it's not an easy task. But I put a link in the description box of the site, so yeah, for everybody who also has to replace the bad capacitors on their system. And another thing that I wanted to mention, and this one is for everybody who lives also in Europe or in any other country where you have 220 of voltage coming out of your wall socket, you need a step-down converter, because the CLD-A100 Laserdisc player only uses 110 volts. I guess almost everybody knows that already, but the thing that I wanted to mention it was when I got the system I used this step-down converter, and yeah, it worked. I could play Sega Genesis games and Sega CD games, and I could also listen to audio CDs. But every time I inserted a Laserdisc or a Laseractive game, then when I hit the play button, the player always restarted. And the reason was because this one only has 45 watts. And I later tried it with another step-down converter that had 80 watts, and yeah, it worked. But I would actually recommend at least a step-down converter with 100 watts, and the one that I'm using right now has 150 watts. Okay, now let's sum up. The Pioneer CLD-A100 Laserdisc player / Laseractive video game system was a failure. It was way too expensive. I think it's a pretty cool system. I really like it, mainly because I have a soft spot for Laserdisc games. And yeah, in the end, like I said before, I would only recommend it to collectors. And yeah, it also wasn't the only home Laserdisc video game system. There was also the PALCOM, or better let's say, there were also the PALCOM Laserdisc games, and in order to play those you would have a specific MSX computer, and I guess you also needed a specific Laserdisc player. And then there was also a way to connect a Laserdisc player to a Commodore Amiga computer, and I guess it worked also with an Atari ST computer, and with the right software you could play the original Dragon's Lair on Laserdisc. And then there was also the Halcyon, which is the holy grail of Laserdisc video game systems. I'm not gonna talk about it, but I put a link in the description box of a very entertaining demonstration video. So if you're interested, just check it out. And yeah, in the end, this was my review of the Pioneer CLD-A100 Laseractive video game system or Laserdisc player. And before I sign off, I also wanted to say thank you to Hugh Johnson, one of the hosts of the Retro League podcast, who invited me to an interview about a month ago. It was really great. He's an awesome and nice guy, and I had a lot of fun. I have to say, I was a little bit nervous, so I was blabbering on and on. But yeah, it was great. And if you want to listen to the interview or any other episode of the Retro League podcast, which I would actually recommend, especially if you like podcasts like The Old Gen Gamers, then go to www.theretroleague.com or just follow the second link in the description box. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the show. Maybe see you next time. Take care. Bye.